Morning intuitives. I wanted to do another before work video before I head out to a meaningless job I despise. So it'd be nice to have a little sense of purpose for the day. Thanks everybody who takes the time to watch some nobody talk about narcissism and his personality and bullying and hazing and soon witchcraft. So really, thank you. I enjoy answering comments. I enjoy, all of you that tell me that these videos help you in some way. That's the whole point of it. I know I'm not the most comfortable person on camera. I'm an introvert who's not trained for this, so I guess you get what you get. But today I wanted to talk about probably the most enigmatic thing about the INFJ personality type, the thing that defines us more than anything, the thing that, is how we view the world, the way our brain functions the most, our gift and our curse. Introverted intuition. So, introverted intuition, or NI, is our dominant cognitive function as an INFJ. As intuitives, we all have it in our stack somewhere. ENFJs, it's your number two function that you like to ignore, and when you get that something doesn't feel quite right feeling, you like to go, it'll be okay, I can do this, it'll be fine, everything will be fine. Whereas the INFJ will call the situation exactly how it's actually going down. But if we're trying to warn other people, even a group of people, no one will listen to us. And that's, how NI works. So, intuition. It's kind of like a sixth sense. I mean, even Carl Jung, the infamous Carl Jung, who is also an INFJ, didn't fully understand NI. And if he couldn't, well, then who could? Um, Introverted intuition, it resides above cognition and below awareness. We do it subconsciously, gathering information, putting patterns together in our head. It's usually right. So when it's below awareness, we get that gut feeling. Long before I knew what any of this was, I would call that feeling something doesn't feel quite right. Like I would just have this sense of I knew how something was going to play out, but it was very hard to trust because I'm like, how the fuck do I know this? This is madness. So in my youth, I would ignore it, and bad things would usually ensue. You can get it with people. You have an instant feeling about somebody, a feeling that maybe somebody's not so good, or a liar, or playing a role of some sort. That's a common expression of your introverted intuition that you can't explain. As I alluded to, a lot of times, and not so much with INFJs, the ENFJs are more known for this. You allow your cognitive mind to override this gut feeling. So you get that feeling that you're being played, you're being taken advantage of, something like that. Somebody's up to no good. But especially in the case where you're striving for an end game that you desperately want, you'll ignore it because you'll think going along with being used or played is the only way to get what you so desperately want that you value. Above all else, I've been there before myself in my younger days, and I still think about those things. They do haunt you. They do. You just best learn from them and not repeat them and do what you can to expose those people for who they really are and take away their supply of future victims. That's my anecdotal experience and personal advice on that matter. So, the skills to utilize intuition, being that it's below awareness, it's trusting your gut instinct, trusting your feeling. You can intuitively know tensions between people that most people don't see. You have to learn to trust those feelings and use your logical brain in conjunction with it to try to make sense of what your intuition is trying to tell you. Now, intuition, as I said, can very much be both a gift and a curse. Now, a developed intuition is more of a gift than a curse. As intuitive types, we all have a sense of intuition, whether it's highly developed or not. And it can be developed in certain ways, just like, if you lift weights, you can develop your strength and conditioning over time. While your intuition is raw in your youth, it's, paying attention to it helps strengthen it. noticing patterns, keeping track of how often your intuitive gut feelings are right, trying to make some rational sense of how you could be right. And that's a little tricky because you may have an intuitive thought of something that is highly improbable, but yet possible, and your intuition's screaming at you to go for it. Over time, if your track record's pretty good with your intuition, you'll know that that's one of those chances, those times where you have to take that chance. Just because something's improbable doesn't mean it's impossible. And as especially NF types, we're pretty hard on ourselves. Our self-confidence isn't all that great. So, and if we're abuse victims on top of that, we've been told over and over again, we're never good enough, why try? If your intuition is telling you you have a shot at something you desperately want, just because others are telling you you're not good enough, probably for malicious reasons, because you're a black sheep or a target of narcissistic abuse, or they're just a horrible person. If your intuition's telling you you have a shot and it's, improbable but possible, best take that shot, or you'll just overthink it forever. What if you took the shot and it worked out? So gathering information on that subconscious level, it can be extremely hard to understand. It's even harder to explain, as I'm failing miserably to do it now, and I'm going to post this video anyway to override my own perfectionism. But it's sort of, if you have it, you understand what I'm talking about. You keep track of little bits of information and slowly build up that puzzle. A good memory is also, very good in conjunction with a strong intuition. So you can notice patterns in people over time, anticipate what they're going to say. You can do it, like yourself. One way to build intuition that I did without knowing that I was doing it over the years is like TV shows you're really into. If the show's been on for a little bit and you get to know the characters, like how they portray themselves and their personalities and their methodology and modus operandi and all that, you can start to guess what they're going to say, what the script says before they say it, and it really freaks people out, but it's kind of cool at the same time, especially with like soap operas, because that's the easiest, characters to anticipate what they're going to say or who's going to mysteriously reappear from the dead. I used to freak out my grandmother as a kid all the time, calling what General Hospital character is mysteriously rising from the dead. It was pretty entertaining, and I had no idea back then how I was doing it. So, intuition, again, it is a gift and a curse, and it is not valued that much in Western society. Like, Western psychology doesn't value intuition and that gut feeling very much. You can read into it more in Eastern psychology, Eastern philosophy. I don't know how much I fully, believe all of that, but there's some good information in there, and it's very interesting reads anyway. So why is it a blessing and a curse, a gift and a curse? Mainly, why is it a curse? Isn't it a good thing to have these feelings and to be able to anticipate things, to see through people? Not always. So we may not like what we see. Biggest reason, you could be enamored with somebody. They could be very good at wearing that mask, very good at playing a particular role, and you may fall for, the image they're portraying, their public persona, and not who they are behind closed doors. Even as intuitives, we usually learn that lesson in life. Usually for us, it's relatively early, and we don't repeat that problem. And yes, I did just wipe my nose. I'm sorry, but it itched. So in that situation, that's definitely an example of how it is a curse, but in the long run, it's also a gift, so we don't repeat that pattern. Often those that develop such insight will feel separate and alone. Yeah. So because of our intuition, because if we learn to trust it and we see through people, we become very picky with who we interact with, who we trust. It goes hand in hand with our trust issues, and sadly for good reason. Yes, sometimes we can get it wrong, but we get it right far more than we get it wrong. So there's, that risk management aspect with trusting your intuition, being picky. It's like, well, I may be wrong about this person, but usually I'm right, so I have to err on the side of caution. There are times where, perhaps that's wrong, and maybe you should keep someone at an arm's length. My only advice to that is, if you initially get a bad feeling about somebody, but you don't think that bad feeling's right, maybe that's pure bravado from somebody who's not comfortable in large groups and they want to portray themselves as tougher than they are. If you think that, though what you're seeing, your first instinct, your intuition is telling you, like your first meeting of somebody, like, I don't know about this, but deep down you think that person is, a person you would like to get to know, my only advice for that is try to talk to that person one-on-one. One-on-one in private where they'll be more comfortable. It could be bravado, or your intuition could be right. Your intuition usually is right, but that's a little fail-safe mechanism. You can test against that. Like I said, gift and a curse, again, most important part. But there's truly few people who understand what an intuitive person expects, kind of. Like, it's sort of a blessing and almost magical, witchcrafty, which I love, to kind of know the unknowable, to kind of have this insight not into the future, but to see a potential pattern of how things will likely play out, or at least is probable in a lot of cases. And, this can give you a sense of connectivity, a sense of safety, a sense that you can protect yourself from repeatedly falling into the same patterns over and over again. The more you learn to trust your intuition, the more you notice patterns, the more you are likely to keep from making the same mistakes over and over. Einstein's insanity, trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Doesn't work. Boomers will tell you otherwise, but they're wrong too. So this is just, some personal anecdotes of why, as an INFJ, I feel that having introverted intuition, or NI, as my dominant cognitive function can be both a blessing and a curse. I could go on longer, but I found it's not good if I make these too long. If you have any further questions on the subject, please leave them in the comments below. I think you get the point of it being a blessing and a curse now, but still, I'm going to say always trust your intuition. Never sell out your integrity. And yeah, if your intuition's screaming at you and you feel like something isn't quite right and someone's trying to exploit you or take advantage of you, best listen to your intuition, or pretend to go along with it and then expose the person for what they are before you actually do what they're trying to exploit you to do. And that can always be fun too.